We are now live. Am I on time? Am I on time? Ezra, am I on time? I'm dead on time. Beautiful. Beautiful. Good evening. We are back for our regular Tuesday live Let's Talk Education. Thank you for joining us this evening. Was it Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday, because that's when I do this. Thank you very much. Firstly, thank you for those of you joining early. Who can I see? I can see Lati has joined. I can see Jody has joined. With those ones who put your kids to bed early to be able to join, our live. Okay, today's live. Usually I try and kind of cut them down if I'm on my own to half an hour, but hopefully we're gonna have a guest join, and we're gonna do half an hour conversation with our guest as soon as they turn up, and then we are going to, for the last half an hour, to discuss the pressing issue of childcare. I've been quite quiet on social media. I kind of did one post, but I kind of depressed me, and I got quite angry. So I thought, you know something, let me go away. I've been looking at the report here. I took the time to actually go through the report, because that's what I like to do, and then kind of really make it quite poignant. So, welcome this afternoon. The first thing we're gonna do. Oh, our guest has arrived. I can see. So let me get on with my introductions. Firstly, we big up Little Scholars. Big up Little Scholars. They have been recently shortlisted for the Woke Babies. I think it's Booker. I should get this right, but Woke Babies have shortlisted Little Scholars as one of their books, or their series of books. So congratulations and well done to Little Scholars. We are also bigging up, as we do, Melanopoly. Brilliant board game. You guys should be sitting down and having this and going through this with your family. Those are our sponsors. Those are our amazing sponsors. So our guest today is an amazing young lady and budding actress. And we met through conversation. And the reason why I thought it was quite poignant to have her on board, because yes, proud and gifted in the room, celebrating young people's achievements. The reason why I invited her on, because I actually invited her on before, but with all the events that's happened over the last week, it seems to have kind of tied in on why she's here, which is amazing. We met on a trip. I was away. I was in Africa. I was in Ghana, and she said a schoolhood experience with me, what it's like for a kind of a black girl in school, yeah? And although I've been a teacher for almost 15 years, to see somebody, I won't say similar to my age, she's a lot younger than I am, she is younger than I am, to kind of share that true kind of experience of what it's like for a black girl to be in school, secondary school, just to show that a lot of the things that we're talking about and are quite poignant in the news over the last week, a lot of these issues aren't new. So I'm gonna press this button. Hopefully it works. Hopefully she's still here. I'm gonna invite her in Foluke. I've invited her. Have I done it correctly? It says accept. It should accept. Hey!
Hi, Ziggy.
There she is. Thank you so much. Oh, I should get my reads. Your setup's nice, boy. Your setup is nice, boy. Got the reads and everything. You get me? So, I know you're a very, very busy lady. I know you were filming in the week. I know you're filming later on, and you've taken the time out to kind of come on to our platform and just kind of speak about education. So firstly, I want to say thank you ever so much.
That's no problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. All right. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your background before we kind of get into the nitty gritty? This is going to be a real kind of interview. You know what I'm like?
Yes, interview me.
You know what I'm like. All right, tell us a bit about yourself, please.
Well, my name's Foluke. I'm 32 and I'm from North London. I went to secondary school in Enfield, specifically a school called Winchmore.
Okay.
And my mum is a teacher.
Fantastic. Oh, your mum's just a teacher. Is that what yeah. Okay. All right, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. Mum's just
We'll
a
get
teacher.
into more of that later.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. Thank you so much. So interestingly enough, we have a connection, and
Yes.
I'm going to be quite unadulterated in regards to Winchmore School. I was
Mm-hmm.
formerly a teacher at Winchmore School, but we'll get into my story. I can see eyes looking at me like, don't talk about that bit. But no, I'm going to speak about that bit.
We can
And
go. We can go.
I remember you saying that your primary school experience was very different to your secondary school experience. And statistics show that black children tend to overachieve at primary school, and then something smacks happens in secondary school, year 7, year 8, and there's a massive dip. So tell us a bit about that primary school experience and then that transition to secondary school, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all. Well, I think my experience was quite unique in the sense that I didn't go to primary school in London.
Okay.
I went to primary school in Berkshire because my mum was teaching in Reading and Slough at the time. Okay. So I always went to primary schools that were near onto her schools. So it was obviously convenient. And actually, whilst I was in year 6, I went through the entire process of doing the 11 plus. And okay. Outside of London, there is kind of a huge expectation to go to grammar school. Everyone kind of leans towards doing the 11 plus and going to grammar school. And it's quite a big deal you're quite proud of your intelligence, and it's quite a big deal to achieve. And that's definitely the push to achieve and do well and to be academic. So from the ages from 7 up until 11, I was always quite proud to be academic. And I was really interested in the schooling system and being at school. And my mum decided that she wanted me to go to secondary school in London. So she had already decided that for year 7, we were going to move, and we were going to move back to London, because that's where I'm from. We were going to move back to London, and I was going to go off to secondary school. And so already being set up for the 11 plus, I did the entrance exams for Latimer. Okay. And I didn't get in, but my mum to this day believes it was a scam. Okay.
That's not the first time I've heard that.
Really?
I've heard that before. Yeah.
So she was actually quite lenient in kind of deciding how, once I didn't get into Latimer, she kind of was like, what school do you gravitate towards? And we went and viewed lots of different schools. And for some reason, I was really drawn towards Winchmore. I went and viewed lots of different schools, but there was something about Winchmore that as an 11-year-old, I like. I think, obviously, in hindsight, she probably wouldn't have let me choose being an 11-year-old then, but at the time, she was like, okay, that's the school that you like, then that can be your first choice. That was my first choice. I got in. So for me, it was quite a drastic change from that entire experience, going to primary school in Berkshire, being proud of being academic. And then it was quite a culture shock getting to secondary school in year 7 in Winchmore. And I think what a lot of people don't understand about that particular school is that although it's based in Winchmore Hill, which might sound like a lovely area.
Yeah.
The catchment area for that school, most of the kids come from Edmonton.
Yes, which, those of you who aren't familiar with the area, there's something called the A10 divide, where the A10 runs dead through Enfield, and if you live on one side, it's like the Golly Bug. If you live on one side, you with me, it's a bit the rougher side of the tracks, whereas if you live in the other side, it's very leafy suburb. Conservative. And not to cut you, it's very interesting. I like the fact that you speak about at primary school there was a hard push for academics. You spoke about common entrance. Now, I know when I had cousins who we've spoken about, who grew up in Jamaica, and one of my cousins, he was the first in his school to take the common entrance like a year early. So the idea of academia, I remember in that school, you had, you would be ranked. So you would, at the end of each term, based on your grades, you'd be ranked. And that would be plastered on the school door. So the idea of pushing for academic attainment, is something that's cemented in me. And again, similar to yourself, I think when I kind of got a bit older, not to kind of, it's still been cemented in me. It's still, so sorry, talk about that transition from coming from that environment where this is what we're pushing for. Grammar school, to come into Winchmore Hill with a bag of Edmonton Utes. Excuse me. So,
well, what was different for me was that from the first day on site, year 7, it was a very different feeling. And the feeling was almost not to be proud of your intelligence. It was, and I remember specifically one of my first classes, I was very excited. That was the thing. You always wanted to be proud that you knew the answer. The teacher asked the question, you shot your hand up and you knew the answer. And I know. And that wasn't taken to very well. And I learned very quickly.
By who? By the teachers or the other
by
students?
my peers. By my peers.
Okay.
And so I wonder if maybe that's a product of their environment from going to primary school in London, because it very much was not a thing to be proud of your intelligence. And quite frankly, when I rushed to show how intelligent I was told, you're trying to embarrass me, like, put your hand down. Like, no. And almost, and it was actually said, you know, to be academic, to be intelligent, like, why are you moving like a white girl? Like, why are you doing that? Like, we don't do them things. And so it was quite a culture shock for me, because I didn't really understand. And I learned very quickly that in order to survive, I was going to have to dumb myself down. And I think looking back, that experience was probably quite traumatic for me. I think the process of dumbing down happened consistently from year 7 to year 10 before my mum pulled me out and saw that there were some serious ramifications of me going to that school. So yeah, that's what happened.
No, thank you. And it's very interesting because, as I said, I taught at Winchmore. I taught for, I don't know how long before they kicked me out. I did about 2 years. I think I did two and a half, 3 years there. And the reason why it's very, very interesting, because I had a cohort of it's the first school I've taught at where black children are like this significant minority. There aren't a lot. And it's almost as if there's a self-fulfilling prophecy, I noticed in that school. And coming in as a black male who was on one half kind of articulate, I was an English teacher. Most black teachers aren't English teachers. They're not English teachers. You might get ICT teaching, you might get a PE teacher. But as a black male teacher who was articulate on one half and then on the other half had a bit of edge to him, are you with me? It was a very interesting dynamic. And I noticed the black children in that school were marginalized and almost kind of forced to fit into a space. And if they didn't fit into that space and almost accept that space, then there was going to be a problem, not only from teachers, but from pupils. What kind of feedback or what kind of issue did you have with teachers? What was the kind of message that you were getting from kind of teachers?
To be honest with you, it was the first time where I felt that I didn't really feel understood by my teachers. There was a couple of advocates. I'm not going to say my entire experience was horrendous. There was a couple of teachers that really rode for me. And I also do want to say my entire experience at that school, my entire experience wasn't traumatic and my entire experience wasn't negative. There were some moments and some friendships and some experiences that I really do cherish. And I really think a lot of those experiences that I had at those schools did make me, and they're a huge part of me. However, unfortunately, I didn't ever feel like I was pushed to my full potential. I felt as though it was a lot easier to give up on the black kids. I felt as though you was almost expected to fail. And there definitely was that energy. And there was even a couple of times where you were guilty by association. I remember one specific time I was sitting in the hall having lunch with my friends in the canteen, and this deputy head just pointed at me and he was like, "You out with me now." And I was perplexed. And he pulled me out and was trying to tell me that I'd done X, Y, and Z. And he was like, "Yes, you with the purple hair." I did indeed have purple hair. I'm anything. And I'm a chatty patty. I can run up my mouth, but I was never violent. And I was never one to consciously cause trouble. So when he stuck it on me, he was like, "No, you did X, Y, Z." I was like, I think you've got the wrong one. And I think looking back, I think there was just this energy of guilty by association. You guys all kind of run together. So if one of you's done something, you're all responsible. And I think it was a shame. I don't think that kids at that school had the best chance. I I think in a lot of ways they failed a lot of pupils by not going the extra mile, by not picking up on kids that were gifted and intelligent and gifted and bright, and kind of pushing them and going all the way and showing them there's a world outside of conforming, and there's a world outside of trying to be, of not being the status quo. And I've always said this, I do think if I had gone to a different school, I probably would have gone a different route and I would have gone straight into higher education. But by the time I left school, I had absolutely no desire to enter higher education, because that just was not the message that was pushed to you at all.
I don't want to seem to be an advocate for Winchmore, because anybody who knows me knows that I'm definitely not. But the statistics kind of show, the statistics across the board in regards to education, and as you said, your mum's an educator, and she could tell you that at GCSE, black children, so that's black African, black Caribbean, children of mixed heritage, underperform in regards to the national average. So we don't achieve the A to C's we need to. We don't go on to achieve the A levels, and we don't go on to university at the rates in which many other groups do. So that's kind of reflective of wider education. I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head in regards to expectations, and something that even though we touched on it, that was, as I said, I'm not sure if you caught earlier on today, I was saying I read the whole report of the child Q thing, and you spoke about guilty by association. And that's one of the things that actually came out from that report, where she was associated, or she was linked to somebody, and that's how the kind of situation had arisen. And there was a previous student who was accused or had issues with the school in regards to, I'm not sure if it was drugs or drug paraphernalia or so on and so on. It wasn't specific. And because of that, she was guilty by association. And many, many times with our children, they are, their behavior, their attitude, as you said, a chatty patty. You're a chatty patty.
No,
yeah? No, sorry, no, I should say were.
No,
You're
I
a
still
chatty
am,
patty. Yeah. You're a chatty patty. Very warm, very open. But often how that is perceived when you are in environments that don't understand our children, it's instantly seen as feisty, confrontational, many other words. And I'm not sure if that's your experience.
Also, to say that what I noticed once I left school, because I went to a different sixth form in an entirely different borough, and a lot of my friends now went to other schools in other parts of East and North London. And what became apparent to me when I got into my 20s was that certain things just weren't brought to your attention. So, like I said, I'm a chatty patty, but at no point did any teacher say to me, you know what, you'd make a great journalist. You know what, have you ever heard of PR? Maybe politics. There was no challenging of that energy, and that happens a lot in other boroughs, where they pick up on these things and they show you a world outside of being a doctor, a teacher, a lawyer. And as far as I'm concerned, it definitely felt like at that school, if you didn't fit into this idea of success, it was, oh, you're chatty patty, we're done with you, or you're trouble, we're done with you.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's very painful. And the reason, again, why your story resonated with me so much is because my daughter, I think she's logged in. I think she's on her way home from work. She had a very, very similar experience. So again, her dad is an English teacher. She was exposed to many things, traveled, and she went to school in East London. And interestingly enough, she doesn't have a heavy, quote unquote, East London urban accent. She's articulate. She has, I'd say, somewhat of a received pronunciation. And when she's been told many a time that by peers, which is almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, that like, you don't talk black, or you don't act black, or you don't dress black, or you don't, I don't know what all of these things are. But it often seems like these stereotypes are created of us, and then we almost fulfill them through self-fulfilling prophecy, which is painful to see. When you shared your experience with your mum as a teacher, what did she say? When did you kind of share this experience with your mum? Have you, I should say?
I think I've shared it in nuggets and little parts with her as an adult, but I think at the time it was probably quite difficult for her because she was in the education her system herself. And so I think a lot of it she maybe felt like she was failing me or she'd done something wrong. And I think also on the teacher's behalf, there was this perception that, well, your mum's a teacher, so you must automatically succeed.
Yeah.
And the reality is, you know, for that period of time that you're at school, you're spending more time at school than you are at home sometimes, because you know you're at home, but then you're sleeping. So you really it's true. Like, so school is really where it's at. School is where a lot of your influence comes from. So I think, unfortunately, parents aren't really aware of your experience and the influences that are there at school. So sharing it with her when I was an adult, I think it was heartbreaking for her. And I think still to this day, I think she carries a lot of guilt. And she's always said, in hindsight, she would have never sent me to that school. And I think in retrospect, I still struggle with the fact when I have kids, I don't know how confident I would be about sending them to an inner city comprehensive school. I know times have changed, but I think you have to be very careful. It depends on what borough you're in, to be honest with you.
I think so.
It completely depends, yeah.
Because, see, I'm actually of the view, I'm of the view where having my daughter having gone to school kind of, she was in, where was she? Barking and Dagenham, which is slightly outside, and seeing what happened, and my son going to he goes to a Haringey school, and oftentimes I'm of the belief that where we are the majority in specific boroughs, so Lambeth, Croydon, Lewisham, Haringey, and the infamous Hackney, we need to ensure that we have influence in those schools. So yes, send your children to those schools, but also make sure that you have influence in those schools. Because what tends to happen, this is what happened to my brother as well. My brother's far older. He's in his 40s. He's ancient. But he was one of the first.
I say ancient, you know, right?
He was one of the first people to go to an Enfield school. He went to Bishop Stopford, and this was in the 80s. And he spoke about getting chased by like NFs after school. Like that's before. That's like, if you're old, you know about NFs, like National Front. He was one of 4 black boys in his year and a handful in his school. And my parents at the time, and a lot of parents are of the opinion that, send them out, they'll get a good education, which he did. He received a brilliant education. It was a good standard of education. However, conversely, the impact of being in a school where you are the minority, and at that time, the kind of ideas of I don't know, anti-racism policy in schools was non-existent. So he argues, and I hear him speak about the traumatic experience versus the education. So it really is a hard one as a parent to kind of decide what are you going to do with your children. And I'm more so an advocate of begin to be involved in the schools in your local area. Very, 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 very much so.
Because what I will say as well is, my mum was known, so teachers knew they couldn't play with me because my mum would be quick to come down, and my mum can handle herself, and she's a very articulate and very intelligent woman, and she will read you the riot act, but so eloquently that you have time to pick yourself off the floor. So a lot of people didn't really want to go toe to toe with her. And also in that school, we had a really good mentor called Des. Hold tight, Des. I don't know where Des is now.
Big up yourself, Des. I don't know where you are, but big up yourself. Anyway,
one black man called Des. He was a very, very certy man. We had 2 positive influences, Des and a gentleman called Patrick Cozier, who came in when I remember I was in year 9. And the two of them, Mr. Cozier.
Yes.
And they were very, very positive influences in our school for us, and we looked up to them. However, 2 people can't do it alone. 2 people is not enough. And so, like you said, if there was more of a parent influence, if there was more, I don't know any parent that was on the governing body, if there was more inclusion, I think the school would have been more safeguarded, and I think the kids would have probably meet their potential and would have had a chance at meeting their potential. But I don't think a lot of kids stood a chance.
And I'm gonna I spoke about that last week. I think I did a post last week based on emotion. I can't kind of remember, but I know I gave out some tips. And the importance of being present in a school. And I just want to, I love the way how you said she would come down, because a lot of times parents will come down and act out of emotion. I've seen parents come down and cuss out teachers. Yeah, I don't mean present in that way. In the way you just said, where you can come down, you can articulate a point and let schools know you are not somebody to kind of play with. I know through from both of my children's schools, I've been governors. My daughter's first primary school, my son and my daughter are in primary school. And I was a young governor, I was like under 30, but I knew for me, they were in a school in kind of like not in my local area, Barking and Dagenham. I was like, boy, I don't really know them ends. I've got to make sure, I have to make sure that that is known, don't ramp with my youths. Interestingly enough, I'm trying to remember, I know my daughter's, because she just walked in, she's probably going to shout out, there was a wonderful deputy headmistress there, a black lady, and she was very supportive on getting me on the governing board because she understood the importance of having a black male, black people involved and kind of pushing that narrative. And it also encouraged other parents to be like, oh, rah, oh, it's possible. So it's so vital for the safeguarding of your children, and you put it beautifully. My mum was known, yeah? I've said this before. My dad did not complete secondary school, yeah? School was not his thing. However, at every school me or my brothers went to, my dad was known. He might not have been able to articulate it in the way that my mum could have, who was a professional, but man knew who my dad was. Teachers knew who my dad was. The head teachers knew who my dad was. Other students knew who my dad was. They knew who both of my parents were. And it is so important. And it means turning up to certain events, participating in certain events. I know, looking back at it, he stood up in certain events, absolutely bored out of his brain. He wasn't on it, but he was there because he understood the importance of safeguarding. I'm so glad that you say that, because it's all well and good bunning out schools. No one buns the system out more than me. You with me? Like, I'm hardcore. You wait until we get onto the next section and I begin to pick apart this report. Yeah, but we're part of it, and we have to be involved. And your mum is a brilliant example, an amazing example of that.
Also, I want to say they have to be invited, because I think my mum was obviously very present in education. She was a part of that world. But if you're not, I don't know if these parents are being invited. I don't know if they're being informed, and I don't know if those opportunities are actually being open to them to get involved.
Do you know something? Sometimes you're not going to get invited. You're just going to have to push down the door and Jim and screech you for a door. Me, I know personally there have been different times and occasions and circumstances where we've had to push our way through certain doors. Are you with me? We have to make our presence known. Are you with me? And
yes, I do.
As is some, oh yes, as the gaffer
Kick
says,
down the door.
Kick down the door. Yeah, that's how it goes, because the reality is it. And as we're seeing, and I'm going to continue to refer to the poignant issue that's in the news of Child Q, it's our children's safety.
Yes,
that's at hand. Because as I said, I know this as a teacher for 15 years. There is no way, and this isn't a criticism to our parents or our people, not at all. But unfortunately, this is how the system's set up. They're not doing that to children. Then that's not happening to you where your mum's known. It's not happening to you.
No.
And even when I read the report, that becomes extremely clear that it's not happening to certain children if it's known. So yeah, it can be difficult. It can be uncomfortable to be in those spaces, especially spaces where you may be dressed a bit differently, you may be fashioned a bit differently. But unfortunately, sometimes we've got to be in these uncomfortable positions. We have to be in these uncomfortable positions. I know you said you're going to give me half an hour.
Yeah, go on to the next thing, Ziggy.
And have I got a bit more time?
Yeah, go on, Ziggy, go on.
I've been told I have 1 minute because I have to let you go at past, and my son is going to get upset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to thank you so much. I'm going to thank you so much for taking your time and sharing your story. And the reason why I think your story is important, and again, I'm reading this, is because I know the impression of black children that's often given. You with me? Especially
Yes.
our girls. Especially our girls. And I know it's something we kind of touched on.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, a lot of our focus, I would say, in more education, we've got about 60 kids. And I'd say 40 of them, about 40 of the 60 are boys. Yeah? A lot of our focus in our community, in education, is on the welfare, the education, the protection of our boys. And I've been saying this, the girls are completely left behind.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
they'll be all right.
Yeah.
They'll get on with it. They'll be
I think
fine.
there's also just a stigma attached to how different things show up. Like ADHD is a perfect example. It's always, they say it's more prevalent in boys. It's not that it's more prevalent in boys. The symptoms are the same. It's just that for some reason, that behavior is recognized more in boys than it is in women. So for example, if a boy struggles to pay attention, then, you know, and he's easily distracted or he causes a fuss, they're more likely to pick it up. However, in a girl, for instance, it's more likely to show up in her being more sociable, more chatty, more distracted.
Yeah, very true.
But yet they're not looking at that. Oh, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. She'll be fine. It happens all the time.
Yeah, no, very, 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 very true. Very true. And it is, and even from an educational perspective, I get many more referrals for boys earlier on for educational support. Like, oh, I can see that, and this isn't a criticism, I can see he's struggling in school, year 7, year 8, he's not where he is. It's not until year 10, 11 where we get the dearth of girls like, rah, she's failing, or rah, she needs that support. It's more of an emergency with the girls, and it's very painful because I know as girls, and I've had many kind of female, it makes them feel as if like no one's really checking for them.
That's definitely how I felt. It wasn't picked up with me until I was in year 10. By that point, it was too late. I got carted off to a different school in year 11, and it was too late. It was way too late. So it happens all the time.
Yeah, and as I said, our figures show that. Our figures show that. So if you have if you have children, get it going from early. I don't know if it's a community thing, if it's the media, where there's this huge focus on, and it's weird. And actually, as I'm saying, I hear it like, we've got to protect our boys. We've got to protect our boys. Okay, yeah, no, I get it. My son's
It's
right
true.
here.
Yes, everyone's like protect the boys, but nobody's. Listen, it's a bit controversial, but no one's looking when the year 9 girls are going outside to meet her big man who's 21 outside the school gates, and ain't nobody looking at that. Nobody's looking at them things. So I'll leave that there. But there's a lot of things that people miss.
Yeah, and it is worrying, and it begins as I'm thinking, and as we're talking, if that's a narrative being told to a lot of our girls when they get older, it's quite clear why they may not feel that as a community, and especially as men, we're not here to protect and look after, because it is a narrative. Wagwan for our girls. As I said, I know you've got, all right, me keep it a little longer than me say me I go keep it. So thank you so much. I'm going to continue, but thank you so much. We'll be in touch and we'll touch base.
Bye,
Yeah?
Ziggy,
And
thank
good luck
you.
with everything that you're doing. Thank you so
much. Big love.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll speak
And
soon.
good, and well done to you too, because you're really holding it down in the community, and we love to see it.
I'm pushing. Thank you very much.
Ziggy.
I appreciate it. All right, we'll speak.
Take care.
All right, thank you. How does this work? Yeah. Oh, luckily, she's very trendy, so she knows how it goes. Oh, somebody said, ciao from Italy, Foluke, we miss you. Yes. Thank you so much for Foluke. I know she's very busy. She gave us half an hour. I'm now going to continue with the conversation, and I'm going to kind of lead off in regards to what she said. And thank you. Urban Goddess said, protect them all. Yes, 110% protect them all. Protect them all, but we've got to begin to have that conversation in our community that, you know what, we need to protect all of our children, yeah, and not just kind of this heavy focus. I know because of when we think about boys, we think about issues of, and I hate this term, urban knife crime, but I am going to use it, and that almost things are out there to get them, but again, the girls are being left behind. And something that came up, especially when I looked at the report, and I'm going to get to it. Every school that I've worked at, from my first school which was Capital City Academy in Northwest London, Park View in Tottenham, Lillian Bayliss in South Lambeth, in Southwest London, and I spoke about Winchmore. The same thing would happen. I would always be a form tutor. I'd always get a form, and in that form there would be a group of girls, and it would usually be black girls. And at break time, what I'd always do as a tutor, I'd always say, "Yep, if you need anything, if anything you need, feel free to come, this, that, and the other, and chill out." And I'd always, no matter what school I went to, would have a group of children, predominantly girls. The boys would pop in and out, but the girls would chill. And it's usually at the back of the room. I'd have the door open. I'd always sit at my desk because I'm safeguarding. Yeah, always sit at my desk. And I would allow them to kind of chill at the back, and they'd play their music and they'd giggle. And when I think about it, they could just be girls. They could just be, and I don't know if I have any of those students. I know sometimes some of my former students kind of log on. And at the last school I was at, Winchmore, I had a gaggle of amazing girls who from different year groups would come and congregate. And when I kind of explored it, it's because within the school environment, they knew in my room they were safe. They were able to express themselves as black girls. They were able to have their jokes without being judged, play their music without being judged, dance without being judged. Somebody said that as well. I did that too. Just be black girls without any form of judgment. And the reason why I know there was judgment, I'm going to continue to use that word, because other teachers would kind of walk past, or if someone had a lesson in my room afterwards, they would say things like, "Oh," I remember one teacher said, "Oh, is this the little black gang?" kind of thing. I'm a look punner. I looked dead in her face. And yes, I am using gun finger. Yeah. I looked her dead in her face. I said, "What'd you say?" Oh, nothing. Oh, nothing. It was, and I remember other teachers couldn't understand the connection, so they would ask, "Oh, is such and such your niece?" I'm gonna name one of them. I'm gonna name Grace. And Grace, because of how she would stay, great. No, a girl I don't know with more confidence. She would say, "Yeah, Mr. Moore's my uncle," and because she would say Mr. Moore is her uncle, and she knew the effect of it, she knew she was protected. And every school, if I was at Lillian Bayliss, I can name the young, we had confidence in Lillian Bayliss, who was there, and her crew, and then we had Grace and Ebony and Renika and that crew at Winchmore Hill. Every school, Therese at Park View, I can name because I remember. So it shows us, or it showed me, when I've kind of went back into the whole child queue thing, yeah, the importance of our girls feeling protected in certain spaces. And I'm going to pull up this report now. Pull it up. I haven't said anything. I didn't go to Stoke Newton Police Station. I didn't go to Hackney Town Hall. And big up to those of you who did go out and support those things. And I'll tell you why I didn't go. Because when I get emotional, I realize when I get emotional, I get anxious. My reaction is anger. And when it gets angry, it gets bad. And I've been very, very angry. I pretty much didn't speak for Wednesday, Thursday. I was processing my emotions. Because as I said, I have a daughter who's 18. I have a sister who is 11. We won't get onto that. And I know that had I had received the report, because what it says is, let's get this straight. And I'm going to go back to this. The school didn't contact the parent. So that isn't why the safeguarding review took place. The safeguarding review took place because a little girl went home and eventually spoke to her mum, and her mum went to the GP. Her mum went to the GP, and it's through going to the GP and explaining what happened that's triggered the safeguarding review. So it's not like the school contacted. If I found out, yeah, and I still feel this way. Because I've been in contact with people involved in the case. I've offered more education services. We've said we know she was taken out of an exam for this examination, and I've said, listen, I've kind of back-channeled. I said, listen, any educational support she needs, yeah, we're there. Don't talk about no cost. We're ain't like that. Are you with me? Just make her know we've received. Yeah, we're there, but we don't want to be too intrusive because we know there's a lot of confidentiality around it. But there have been a lot of people say, "Oh, don't name the school. Oh, the school shouldn't be named." because of the protecting the confidentiality of the girl. Okay, of the young lady. Sorry, child Q. Cool, I hear you. But I'm also thinking, what about all the other black children that are in that school? What about all of the other black children? Now, I'm not going to name the school, but the school's it's already out there. The name of the schools are out there. That school is a big school. Yeah, big school. I think it's like intake of maybe 1,200 students. Yeah. Now, of those 1,200 students, let's say a quarter of them, but I know it's more. And the reason I'm going to say a quarter, because it's in the borough of Hackney. A quarter of Hackney's population, 22%, are black people. So let's say 25% of the students in there, I'm going to do some quick maths. That's 300 students are currently not being safeguarded in that school. And that is the major concern. They kept those adults involved, protected for the last 2 years. I'm going to get onto that. And this is why it's important. I was talking to certain people in the media. Big up Nadine White. I love Nadine White. She's a rider. Yeah, let me let you not know, if there's anybody in the media who you want to know is one of us, yeah, who rides for us, Nadine White and Independent. She's straight one of us. I'll big her up every time. There are certain other people who had whatever their agendas were and blah, 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 blah. Cool. No disrespect to anybody. Thank you for everybody who responded. Are you with me? But I'm going to say to you, Nadine White, straight. Now, I'll tell you why you needed to name the school. It came out in the media recently that they've sacked the teacher. The teacher hasn't been sacked. I can tell you that as a fact. Anybody can counteract me. Anybody can come against me. They have not sacked the teacher. What's happened is they've come to a contractual agreement and the teacher's left. If the teacher was sacked, yeah, the teacher's teaching license would have to be revoked. You'd have to go to Coventry. Yeah, you'd have to go to Coventry. It used to be called the GTC. I can't remember what the exact General Teachers Council. I'm gonna get one of my assistants to Google the exact name right now. Yeah, it's in Coventry. I know where it is. Yeah, you'd have to go there and you'd have to get your license revoked. So sometimes you see articles come out in the news about, oh, a teacher did this and it was reviewed and they had their teaching license. Unless her or his teaching license has specifically been taken away from the GTC, there is no sacking. Yeah, don't be fooled, please. And if it's a 2-year period from when it happened to now, that investigation should have been concurrent. And I've not seen, unless they're going to release it in the news that, yeah, the GTC is revoked. That means there can be an agreement that's had, i.e., you can have an agreed reference with the school and you can leave. Yeah, that is, I am 99.9% sure, because I've not seen anything from the GTC. There has been nothing released about this teacher's teaching license being revoked, meaning that teacher could be probably teaching supply or in another school teaching today. Yeah, please. And this is why it's very important, yeah, that teacher was settled out of the organization. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's why it's very important we don't get caught up in kind of the media and specific words, because as I said, that teacher, the problem may have a clause that you can't teach, will pay you out from, like I say, from now till the end of term, till summer. Come September, you can go and teach in the next school. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah, which is why the importance of us knowing the name of the school and calling for real change. And when I mean real change, that's licking off the head of all SLT. That's senior leadership team. As head teacher, deputy head, and I know who, I went and I researched. I know who all of these people are in the SLT in the named school. I can tell you this, none of SLT look like me. Yeah. If any of those members of SLT were standing next to me, you would say we're definitely not related. We may be related through marriage, but definitely not through blood. Yeah. It says, please save this. Yeah, no, I post up my lives all the time. And I'm trying to be as measured as possible, because as a community, we often get very kind of caught up in the emotion. And that's what I tried not to do. I tried not to get caught up in the emotion. I tried not to be Again, that's why I didn't go to the police station. All I did is I just made contact to see if the young lady needs any educational support, because that's what I can do. I donated money to certain causes that I know are backing it for this young lady. I sent some dough, whatever you need. That's what I did. Yeah, simple. And I'm not saying that to get any form of ratings or anything. That's just what we do. But it's all about strategy. I know who all of the SLT members are, members of senior leadership team. That's the head, those are deputy heads. They look nothing like us. I've said many, many, many a time, if you're going to send your child to a school, yeah, you have to pick up on the vibe of the school, and you've got to look at the senior leadership team. I'm not saying that everybody on the senior leadership team, if you have black people on the senior leadership team, then it's going to be cool. I'm not saying that, but you stand a better chance. When you go around the school, as Foluke said, there are going to be 1 and 2 people who are around in that school who are going to back it. And what I mean, and she said it, who are going to ride out. I know as a fact, I can tell you, I think I previously told you a story where in Capital City, you can research this, when I was at Capital City and I was not a qualified teacher, and they tried to take the children's fingerprints without parental consent. I was not a qualified teacher, and I looked in at the deputy head's face and I said to him, yo, they came to take my tutor class, and I said, yo, you ain't taking my tutor class because you're not fingerprinting no youths that I respond for. There are going to be a few people in certain schools who are going to ride for your youth. If I was in that school, I can tell you from now, that ain't happening. If I'm in certain schools, I don't business. I am known as a troublemaker. I went to an interview in a school, and the head teacher pulled me aside and said, yo, you're a bad boy teacher, but boy, the reports from the other schools, you're a bit of a loose cannon. You're a bit of a troublemaker. And what they mean by that is I don't take check. And what I mean by I don't take check, and what I mean by that is my principles and my integrity go before everything. The things that I've been willing to do, and the things where I've been kind of willing to stand up against certain things, my reputation precedes me. And I've done that numerous times in numerous different schools. It's vital. It is vital, so vital that we take this seriously in the selection and where we put in our schools and our involvement in the school system. Until we're in a position, or we're back in a position where we have our own schools and we have our own educational network, we have to be involved. So as promised, I said, I'm going to pick through this 34 pages. It's not intense, but I would urge every individual on this live and every parent, every single parent, to read this thing, please. Yes, sign a petition. Yes, whatever, I'm not sure the different things that are happening. Sign a petition, blah, 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 blah. However, read this. I had a teacher friend message me, a white guy, and I posted it, and he said, where can I? He Googled it. And as he read it, he kept coming back to me, asking me questions like, "Right, like, why could this happen? And this is what happens." Yeah. One of the key things that the review did, which was really good, is they ensured a reference panel including Black and global majority safeguarding professionals were also convened. So they made sure they had people who represented Black people within the reviewing panel, because it was vitally important, because they don't see things the same way that we see things. When I was speaking to, I wish I could read the entire report, but I'm not going to. Read the report. Oh, you're saying, yes, please, people, read the report. Yeah. It's very, very important that we have, especially in education, we have people in certain places. Otherwise, there's going to be nobody to back it for you when you didn't. And if they didn't have these people in place with the review, there's no way that you would have had the outcome that you had. So the first thing it says, finding 4, there are 6 findings. Let me just double check. Sorry, there were 8 findings, but the finding that stood out to me was finding 4. He said school staff had insufficient focus on the safeguarding and needs of child Q when responding to concerns of suspected drug use. Now, what they're saying is, if a youth has drugs, or you suspect a youth having drugs, especially a girl, and this is why it's crazy, especially a girl child. The first thing that I would think, if a girl child has drugs, and this is something that's very prevalent, is that they are they're traffickers, or they are being influenced by people outside of the school, or older, maybe gang members, whatever, and that child is vulnerable. That's the first thing you think. Me, 15 years in the game. My thing is, I have to have a conversation to ascertain, is that child at risk? Is that child at risk? Not that the child is the criminal, that the child is the victim. The reason why they're more than likely going to be the victim is because they are a child. Very simple. Very simple. The school did not see it, and that's the finding. That's finding 4. That's finding 4. And this is why it is so, when I speak about taking that whole SLT, the whole governing body being taken out, because when I tell you this, when you read it and you realize, yo, this child was failed. Okay, that was finding 4. I'm just going to pick out the bits. I just kind of highlighted certain bits. I said, yo, consultation and supervision. Okay. All right. So in essence, there was no, how do I say this? There's no precedent of how or whether strip searches should take place. It's and what was quite disturbing was when they asked the teachers to recount, like, all right, so like what happened? Everyone, I forgive them story, you know. There was not one straight story. There was not one straight story. Everyone I tell a different story. Oh no, we didn't know she was going to be searched. Oh, we didn't think it was going to come to this. Or the report says it. The report says it. I can read verbatim. In trying to determine why the events unfolded as they did, inconsistencies in the account of those have hampered the review's ability to clarify these details with precision. These variations primarily relate to initial conversations between the police and the school, whether school staff knew child Q was going to be searched. So you know what I must say? I'll break that down. Yeah, when it's hampered. True, there was inconsistencies. Yeah, in the accounts. There's a word I would use for inconsistencies in accounts. It's called lies. Yeah, straight lies. Man was lying. Big professionals. I'm a teacher. I'm not dunce. I remember. I know what happened. Yeah, but because everybody knew it was on top, they didn't call the parents. There was lying. It hampered the review because there were so many different stories and different men trying to get it. It says it here, 2.10. Yeah, it hampered the review. So when they've come to ask and do the investigation, nobody has a consistent story. Nobody has a consistent story. It says teachers were involved, but only one teacher's been sacked. Make it make sense. Thank you. As I said, SLT, enough man. And I'll tell you another thing, and this is why I take it personally. I've taken it personally. I've literally taken it personally. I know don't get me wrong, there are a few good eggs in there. If it's me and I know anything about this, and it's not just SLT, remember you got HR, because HR has got to write the contract, yeah, to ease you out the door. It's the HR assistant who has to put the things together. You've got people in that school who know. You got people in the school who know. You got black people in the school who know. And this is why sometimes we're compromised. And I was saying this to somebody the other day. I remember going into that meeting. Yeah? Yes, HR are terrible. I remember going into a meeting, again, with a fingerprint thing, yeah? And I went with a senior member of staff, black member of staff, yeah? And no disrespect, and it brought a lot to light. And I was an unqualified teacher, still training. I've gone into the meeting with the deputy head. And I'm saying, and I end up leading and saying why it can't happen. I remember that member of staff was quiet. When we're there, the staff from be a big chat and everybody, yeah, this is wrong. This is wrong. All right, let's go into, who's willing to go and talk to the deputy head? Well, they wasn't me. I'm a junior member. I'm not even a member of staff. But true where I come from, and now we're not afraid of nobody, so no problem. We're going into against the deputy head. And when we talked to the deputy head, that member of staff started getting quiet. And I remember vividly, it was Securicor. It was Securicor. No, it was Group 4S who were doing the thing. And years later, it came out that they tried to explain that the data's not stored and the fingerprint stuff's not stored. Blah, 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 blah. Group, years later, it came out that it was. Thank you. 5 minutes left. I don't want to be ranting. Anyway, that person got quiet. I ended up leading the meeting. I was 20, 23, 24 at the time. And I realized why I was leading the meeting. Because enough people don't talk because them of wages. They've got money. That's your livelihood. Yeah? Yeah, yeah, simple. Self-preservation. Thank you, Gaffer. Self-preservation. That person might have been on 40, 50K. I don't business. I weren't on 40, 50K, so I never had nothing to lose. But a lot of the time, the people who aren't talking, because they're afraid to lose their job. They're afraid to this, that, and the other. But one of the reasons is, as a community, we are unable to provide those people with jobs and security. So I understand. My mentality is slightly different. But that's one of the reasons why I'm super vexed, because I know there are people in there who saw a black child go through that and wasn't really willing to push out their head. But that's the final point I wanna kind of land on. Actually, let me go through and see if there's anything else I picked out. Okay, one of the key things was when you conduct a strip search, you're supposed to consult with a senior officer. It doesn't matter if it's in school, whatever. You're supposed to consult with a senior officer. So I don't know how it works in police. If you're is it constable and sergeant? You with me? If he's a constable, you're supposed to consult with your duty sergeant. You with me? Before you do it. That wasn't done. They did not consult with their senior people. There was no consultation with the senior thing before the police search was taken out. Madness. Absolute madness. I'm not going to read through it anymore. I'm going to ask you guys to take the time out to read through it. But these are things that take place in schools. Liberties take place in schools every day. Every day. I'm going to tell you about, I was speaking to a student today, and they saw the report on the table, and he recounted his issue with the police. And he had a bit of a violent outburst in his school. And in them taking him down or whatever, he hit his head. And he said, oh yeah, I remember when the police took me down and they hit my head. He goes, oh, I've still got a lump on my head today. It still hurts. That was today. I had to look at him and say, boy, sometimes it's overwhelming. Sometimes it's overwhelming, and there's so few of us out there firefighting that they say, so the police have to lose their jobs. Police ain't losing their jobs. What are the police losing their jobs for? Since listen, police have ended the life of black people and not lost their jobs. How's a police going to lose his job for this? With what political clout can we make police lose their jobs? And this is why we've got to come at it from a political perspective, which is why I didn't write a letter to an MP. I didn't write a letter to an MP. I'm going to find her name. I didn't write a letter to an MP. I didn't write a letter to the MPs in a local setting actually don't have any power. It's your local councillors that have the power. It is your local councillors that have serious power to take over schools. Simple. They have the power to take over schools. So there is a MP in Hackney. Name evades me right now. I did send her an email, and she is the MP for is it children, safety, and young people? That's her remit. She's part of the cabinet. And that's who I sent an email to. Yeah, I took my time, I researched, and I sent it to her. And I CC'd in Diane Abbott. And again, Diane Abbott, well, no matter what you say about her, Diana, nobody's got no black MP has a record like Diane Abbott. None, whether you believe in her or not. And I CC'd her into it. And if we're going to pressure anybody, it needs to be Hackney Council. If anybody needs to be pressured about doing something about this, it needs to be Hackney Council. It needs to be the council. It needs to be the local councillors. That's who need to be pressured. So the fact that we're outside the town hall, that makes sense. Identify those councillors specifically in a ward. Specifically in a ward. Because this is political. This isn't, we need to look at it from a political perspective. Yeah. There's a lot of politics going on in regards to the naming of the school, in regards to the fact that Hackney Council is a majority-run Labour council. They've only got a few Conservative councillors. That's in the Springfield and Stamford Hill ward, which is predominantly Jewish wards. Yeah, I'm gonna round it up there. I'm probably not gonna go any much further about this or about this issue, I'll probably be working with people behind and sending emails behind the scenes and this, that, and the other. I'm not going to talk upon them. That's not really my style. But thank you very much for the people who have lasted the whole hour. I'll be posting this up immediately. DM me if you've got any questions outside of this or you need any support. More importantly, we have our Easter GCSE revision classes. If you know any year 11 students, many of those students were affected by the pandemic who need support. It's £35 for 4 days, which works out to like £5 an hour or something like that. So we've done £5 an hour for our Easter revision classes from the 12th to the 15th in maths and English. It's on our page. We've got a link in our bio. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Foluke, for coming on and sharing your story. It was much appreciated and it was extremely appropriate. And those of you, I look forward to seeing you next week. Remember, it's 8:30 every week. So there's certain people I've not seen before. Sean, I'm not going to mention any names, but make sure you're here every week, 8:30. We have a wonderful guest that is offered online. We have a wonderful guest next week. I'm going to wait for you guys to see the promotion, and we are going to be looking at issues surrounding Black children and autism and things you can do to support your children. So thank you very much. DM me if you've got any questions. Take care.